The rumble began like distant thunder, but this wasn't a storm. It was the sound of a mountain's fury, the earth itself roaring back against human arrogance. Hours earlier, Karen Matthews had stood on her balcony, sipping champagne and admiring the view she thought she'd conquered. Within moments, that view would crumble, literally burying everything she had ever built. But let's rewind. 2 years earlier, Karen was the newly elected president of the Eagle's Crest, Homeowners Association, a woman known for her sharp suits, sharper tongue, and a reputation for getting whatever she wanted. Her dream? To turn the sleepy, wooded neighborhood into a 5-star luxury resort. The problem? That dream sat on the sacred grounds of Blackstone Mountain, a place locals warned should never be disturbed. The mountain wasn't just rock and soil. To the nearby Redwood tribe, it was the heart of the earth, a place believed to hold the spirit of balance. Every decade, they held a quiet ceremony at its base to honor the land. Karen, however, saw only prime real estate with untapped potential. When her proposal met resistance, she laughed it off. Superstitions don't stop progress, she told the city council. She pushed through environmental reviews, bribed a few local officials, and in less than 6 months, the blasting began. At first, everything went according to plan. Roads carved into the mountain's side, luxury villas taking shape, and marketing videos promising tranquility with a view that touches the heavens. Investors poured in. Karen stood atop the half-finished resort, telling reporters, "We're building the future." But locals whispered that the mountain had started to breathe. Animals fled the area. Trees wilted on one side, and the air carried a low, constant vibration, like the growl of something ancient and angry beneath the surface. One of the last elders of the Redwood tribe came to see Karen personally. His words were simple. "You've taken too much. The mountain will take it back." Karen smiled, dismissing him with a wave. "If nature has a problem," she quipped, "she can talk to my lawyers." That night, the first cracks appeared in the foundation of Villa 1. Workers reported tremors, lights flickering, and a strange echo that seemed to come from inside the stone itself. No one realized what was truly beginning, until it was far too late. The first crack in the mountain appeared like a scar, thin, jagged, and pulsing faintly under the morning sun. At first, Karen called it a minor geological quirk. Nothing a few contractors couldn't fix. But by the end of the week, the quirk had split a concrete retaining wall clean in two. The workers were uneasy. One of them, a young man named Diego, swore he heard whispering in the stone when the wind passed through the canyons. Karen didn't believe in whispers. She believed in deadlines. Patch it. Paint it. "Keep working," she barked during a site meeting, her sunglasses reflecting the mountain's peak. A peak now veiled in a strange, rolling fog that hadn't been there before. Within days, the project's pace slowed. Machinery failed inexplicably. Drones used for surveying crashed mid-flight, their footage later showing static flashes and strange shapes, moving just beyond the lens. Several workers quit, muttering that the mountain was alive. Karen replaced them without hesitation, but something else had started to shift. Not just in the rocks, but in her dreams. She woke each night drenched in sweat, hearing low, rhythmic thuds, like footsteps beneath her bed. The sound always faded before she could tell if it was real. Then came the birds. Hundreds of black ravens descended one morning, circling the resort site in eerie silence. Not one cawed. They simply hovered, watching. The construction crew froze, staring up. The silence stretched so long that when one bird finally screeched, a generator blew out instantly. Sparks rained down, and Karen screamed for everyone to get back to work. By mid-afternoon, the fog thickened into a suffocating blanket. Visibility dropped to a few feet. Equipment lights flickered in the gray haze, and a deep vibration pulsed through the ground. That night, Karen's assistant Lila burst into her office. "You need to see this," she said, trembling. She held a tablet showing drone footage from earlier that day. The camera panned across the valley, and there, clearly visible, were lines etched into the soil, like enormous patterns forming naturally. They weren't random. They were circular, ritualistic. Karen laughed nervously. "Coincidence," she whispered. But when the drone zoomed in closer, the central circle contained something unmistakable, the silhouette of her own resort, drawn perfectly into the earth as if marked for burial. She shut the tablet, heart hammering. Outside, thunder rolled, not from the sky but from below. At 2:17 a.m., the mountain exhaled. That's the only way survivors described it later, a long, trembling breath that rattled windows, toppled glasses, and woke every living soul on the resort grounds. Karen shot up in bed, the air humming with a deep vibration that shook her chest like a drumbeat. She rushed to the window. What she saw made her blood run cold. The fog that had blanketed the valley for days was now swirling upward, forming a spiral around the summit. The peak glowed faintly red, like embers under ash. Lights flickered across the property, and the faint sound of cracking echoed through the canyons, as if the earth itself were splitting open. Karen grabbed her phone. No signal. The Wi-Fi was dead. When she stepped into the hallway, Lila was already there, pale and shaking. "The ground's moving," she whispered. "It's not an earthquake, it's something else." Outside, workers stumbled from their quarters. Some prayed, others ran for their trucks. But the access road had collapsed overnight, swallowed by a gaping fissure. Panic spread fast. The mountain was alive, breathing, heaving, reclaiming what had been stolen. Then, from the peak came a thunderous crack. A massive boulder broke loose, tumbling down the slope like a meteor. It smashed into the unfinished spa building, reducing it to rubble in seconds. The ground roared. Trees toppled like matchsticks. Karen screamed orders, but no one listened. She stumbled through the chaos, dust stinging her eyes, trying to make sense of the noise, the shaking, the cries. In the distance, the carved terraces began to crumble one by one, each collapse followed by a rumble that felt almost rhythmic. The earth wasn't just falling apart, it was moving with intent. Then came the final sign. The ravens returned. Thousands of them, swirling above the resort like a living storm. Their cries deafening. Karen covered her ears, screaming, "Stop it!" But the noise only grew, drowning her voice entirely. Lila tugged her arm, pointing toward the mountain's base. The sacred totems of the redwood. Tribe. Those she'd ordered removed months ago were now rising from the soil, upright and unbroken, as if the earth itself had resurrected them. The mountain's red glow intensified. The ground split open beneath Villa 1, and with a shattering roar, the entire southern slope began to collapse. Karen stood frozen, staring up at the mountain she had tried to tame. And in that final second of stillness before the landslide began, she whispered the only word that came to her mind. "Sorry." The earth answered with thunder. The landslide came not as a single wave, but as a devouring wall of earth, rock, and fury. The mountain groaned, a deep, guttural sound that made the air itself vibrate before releasing centuries of restrained power. The hillside split open like a wound, and the resort that once glittered with gold and glass became a battlefield between pride and nature. Karen ran. Mud and stone thundered behind her as buildings crumbled like sandcastles. The once luxurious villas folded under the weight of the sliding mountain, swallowed whole in seconds. Somewhere in the chaos, a construction crane twisted, shrieking, before being consumed by the mud. Lila screamed for her to move, but Karen's legs felt heavy, every step sinking deeper into the trembling soil. The path that had led up to her mansion was gone, replaced by a churning river of black earth. Lightning flashed above, illuminating the resort's logo, a golden eagle's crest sign, just before it was crushed flat beneath a tumbling boulder. The mountain didn't just destroy, it erased. Karen stumbled toward the old redwood clearing, the one place she had refused to acknowledge. There, half buried in mud, stood the elder who had warned her months before. His eyes were calm amid the chaos. "You were told," he said quietly, his voice barely audible over the roar. "The mountain doesn't take revenge. It restores balance." Karen fell to her knees, the rain washing streaks of mud from her face. "I didn't mean for this. I just wanted to build something beautiful." The elder shook his head. "You built on bones." A final, thunderous rumble rolled through the valley. The ground beneath Karen gave way, and the slope began to sink. She reached out, grasping at the earth, her diamond ring catching one last glint of lightning before she disappeared. Beneath the collapse, when dawn broke, silence hung heavy over Blackstone Mountain. The fog had lifted. The resort was gone. No glass, no steel, no sign it had ever existed. Only the faint curve of a new ridge remained, smooth and undisturbed, as if the mountain had healed itself overnight. Weeks later, hikers reported that the area had begun to bloom again. Wildflowers grew where concrete once stood. Birds returned. The river ran clear for the first time in years. And on one quiet morning, a single golden earring was found at the summit, half buried, glinting faintly in the sunlight. The mountain had kept a souvenir. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. More real-life tales of greed, karma, and nature's power are coming soon.